Jock. Old Jock, if he were alive today, he'd be 172 years of age. The foundation of our breed. Then, 140 years ago, the very first Angus cattle came to the United States of America from Scotland. And 130 years ago, the American Angus Association was established in 1883. During this 175-year period, there were 100 books worldwide written about Angus cattle. And at the American Angus Hall of Fame, it's been my pleasure to have been able to collect every one of them. And so the desire was for Jeremy and Kurt, who I work with at the American Angus Hall of Fame, to put a unique book together entitled The Angus Legends. The Angus Legends book was in process for 10 years. It's been completed. It consists of 2 volumes, one on bulls and one on females, depicting the entire realm of the Angus breed. Nearly 1,600 pages. And I've been extremely honored that the American Angus Auxiliary consented to enter into a joint marketing venture on this book. So today I'm here to present, get this, the first installment to the American Angus Auxiliary. And Cortney, it's good news, because on behalf of the Angus Legend book, I brought a check for $10,000 for the American Angus Auxiliary. The book will be available at the Angus Barn, and a certain percentage of this will continue to go to the American Angus Auxiliary for their many worthwhile activities, and we're proud to be a part of it. Thank you, Cortney.
I'll be honest, when Tom asked me if we could have a couple of minutes for special presentation, I didn't know it was going to involve all that. So that's a surprise, so thank you so much, Tom. I really appreciate it. My Angus story does not start off like many. I don't come from generations of Angus breeders. When I was 10 years old, I approached my mom and dad and said, "Can I show cattle?" And my parents that had no experience raising or showing cattle said yes. And for the first couple of years, I showed some crossbred cattle. And when I said we started at the bottom, we started at the bottom. And we had one woman in particular that came up to me my very first show, and I think she could tell that we were definitely beginners when we got off the trailer. And she started to help me. And this next couple of years, she really encouraged me to get involved with the Angus Association and to start showing Angus. She said, not only will you be able to show, but you'll have all these other opportunities and contests and experiences that you're not going to get from any other breed. And so in 1995, I purchased my first Angus steer. And in 1996, I purchased my first Angus heifer, and I was in love ever since. And I got as involved as I could in anything that dealt with Angus. And if I had known that that one decision at 10 years old was going to make such an impact on my life, I probably would have told you you were wrong. My first experience with the auxiliary came when I received an auxiliary scholarship. And boy, was I thrilled. Just to be able to compete for Miss American Angus. I hadn't been involved in it for long periods of time, but I had seen Miss American Angus at all the shows and had an opportunity to build a relationship with some of the past national queens. And so just to have the opportunity to run was such a neat opportunity. And so I went to Louisville that year, and I ran in the Miss American Angus contest, and the order, the schedule was a little different. So it used to be that you were selected right after the champion, or right before the champion heifer. And then they used to make all the girls stay to go to the banquet that night. Well, I didn't think I had any chance. So we checked out of the hotel, we packed all of our bags in the car, and we headed over to the show. And then I was selected. And then we had to check back into the hotel and stay an extra day. That experience is life-changing. And any young lady that goes through the process of being Miss American Angus will tell you that you kind of enter that year as still this young girl, and you end up as a young lady. And the experiences that you are given during that year are life-changing, and they're like no other opportunity at that point in your life to really experience. The people that you meet, the opportunities that you have, not only to represent the American Angus Association, the Auxiliary, and CAB, but to just meet people, and even your peers that you might have not had the opportunity within such a large junior organization to meet. And the people that you touch that you don't even know is really incredible. And from that point, I told myself that after that year, and after my time as a junior member, that I was going to give back to the auxiliary in any way that I could. And so I had 2 women approach me about being a regional director. This was the first year that it ever started, and that was Ann Batten-Schubert and Ann Lampe. And I cannot thank them enough because they've really mentored me through this process, then and still now. I still call them both, and they still give me great advice. And I jumped at that opportunity, and I shared this story yesterday during the meeting, and I'll share it again this morning. The first breakfast that we went to after the regional director started, we were all sitting at the head table, and they introduced the directors for the first time, and after the breakfast, there were a couple young ladies that came up to me, and one was Emily McCurry. I'm going to name names. And the other 2 were Mallory Trosper and Whitney Trosper Renfro. And they came up to me, and they go, "What are you doing? You are not old enough to be at all in your auxiliary." And I was so clueless. I go, "What do you mean?" I said, "You can get involved anytime." They go, "What are you doing?" And I always think back to that point because I always got such a kick out of it because Mary and Emily were chairs of the Miss American Angus Committee for a very long time, and now the Trosper girls, sorry, I'm going to keep you as the Trosper girls because that's how you are to me, even though some of you are married, and now they are involved with the Miss American Angus Committee. And so I just think it's such a neat opportunity, and after I served as a director for a couple years, I had the opportunity, I'll never forget, Michelle Reeve had called me up one day and she goes, "Would you be interested in running for secretary-treasurer?" And that was always a goal of mine, but just never something I thought that would ever have happened this soon. I thought, oh, maybe one day down the road they'll maybe consider me. And so I jumped at the opportunity and I was so excited. And so I have been truly blessed and honored to be able to serve. And there's a lot of people that I have to thank. And I'm going to try not to get emotional, but let's face it, I'm an emotional person, so I'll just be very honest. One of the first people that I have to thank, and if you know me very well, I'm actually from Maryland. I was born and raised in Maryland, and I ended up in Indiana because I dated outside my breed, and I'm really sorry. I actually met my husband here 6 years ago today, actually, and he raises shorthorn cattle, but we still are in the beef industry, in the cattle industry, and he still has Angus. I remember 6 months after we started dating, he goes, "If this works out, am I going to have Angus cattle?" And I said, "Absolutely." So we were a package deal, and we got married. And so I ended up moving to Indiana, and I thought it was so interesting because I really have to thank the Indiana Angus Association and the Indiana Angus Auxiliary because they have welcomed me and supported me in these past few years. And I thought it was so interesting because the chairs of this morning were Sharon Summers and Judy Howe. And I met them over 10 years ago when I ran for Miss American Angus. Sharon was actually one of the judges. And I never would have thought that, 10 years down the road, I would be working with her. And she has been such a great friend and such an amazing woman to work with. And I always was so thankful to those judges, but never thought, I would ever form a relationship and be able to work with them. And so thank you so much, Sharon. You've done an excellent job. And Judy, we met that same year. The year as Miss American Angus, I traveled a lot with the junior board, obviously, and her youngest son, Brian, was on the junior board, and we became really good friends. And my mom and I traveled a lot, so Brian and I, and my mother, we actually kind of were this little clique where we hung around together. So it was kind of just interesting how, even though I was from Maryland at that time, several years later, I ended up in Indiana. And so it's a really small world, and I'm just very fortunate to have those people in my life. I also want to thank the women that have served with me. the executive team, and all the committee members. I'm young, I get it, and I've had a lot of support and a lot of leadership, and that's really special to me. It's nice to be able to work with women that respect you and that support you. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it. I have to thank my husband. He couldn't be here today. Cattle are our livelihood, and so he's at the junior show. But he has been very patient. We have an interesting relationship. We work every day together in the barn. And for some people, they go, how could you do that? And our relationship, I think, works the best that way. And so he's been very patient and very understanding. I've traveled a lot this year. And we just sent each other texts this morning. I said, good luck at the show. And he said, good luck here. I'm really proud of you. And so that means a lot to me. Lastly, I'm going to thank my mom and dad. I had two people that trusted and supported me a lot, and that saw something in me that I didn't even see in myself. And they pushed me, even when I didn't think I could do something, they pushed me. And I am so grateful for that. I'm grateful that they didn't care how expensive it was at the time. Showing cattle is not cheap, and they believed and saw a passion within me in the cattle industry and in the Angus breed. And so I am forever grateful for that. And so thank you so much.
Well, Courtney's going to be a tough act to follow. She's been an amazing president. She has supported me, and she's just done an amazing job, and we'd like to give you this gift as a token of our appreciation.
I may have missed this, and I apologize if I did. I'm going to ask the past presidents to please stand, distinguished women, and state presidents if you're present. I want to make sure I recognize you. It gives me a lot of joy and honor to welcome Cortney Hill-Dukehart as the 2014 auxiliary president. Through these past couple of years, I think Cortney and I have become very close. Our lifestyles are very similar. She works with her husband and I work with mine in the cattle industry. And so we can share a lot of things and we can talk about a lot of things, just like I can with a lot of these women that are up here. And so I am very confident in where the auxiliary is headed, and I'm very excited to see where this next year will lead. And I'm just so proud to welcome you as the new president of the Angus Auxiliary.
Well, my Angus story is not one full of history. My first experience came with cattle 11 years ago when I first met my husband, Carl. He said, "Do you want to show a cow?" And I said, "Sure, sounds fun." You know. Many of these ladies have heard the story of my first experience in the show ring. It wasn't pretty. So it's really a miracle that I hung in there and stuck with it. And I've never been happier of any decision in my life that I did, because I fell in love with the Angus breed. Carl and I now manage a herd of Angus cattle in eastern North Carolina, where we offer custom flush work and raise a few show cattle. I truly have the best of both worlds. I have the opportunity to further the Angus breed that I work with every day as a hands-on producer. Probably the best example that I have of this is this last year as scholarship chair. It was like Christmas when I got scholarship applications in the mail, and my mail carrier and I, he started to realize how important they were to me, and so one day I was giving hay to a group of recips, and I was in the middle of a cow pasture on a tractor, and my mail carrier waves me down, "Courtney, you have a lot of scholarships today. You just want me to put them in the truck?" I said, "Sure." That's great. We have a great relationship now. So I knew very early on that I wanted to get involved somehow, and what better way than the auxiliary? I have met the most amazing, dedicated, and passionate people within this organization. The officers, regional directors, committee chairmen, and members work as a team to accomplish so much and offer more and more opportunities every year. I'm so envious of the experiences that our young people have that have the opportunities within this breed. But you know, not growing up in this business almost gives me a better perspective and a better respect and appreciation for what the Angus breed offers. We are incredibly fortunate to have the Angus Foundation, the American Angus Association, the National Junior Angus Association, and Certified Angus Beef as partners in our promotion and development of the Angus breed. Not to mention the wonderful friends of the auxiliary that give of their time and resources to help further our cause with our projects. I assure you, what I lack in experience, I make up for in passion. I feel so strongly about the work and mission of the American Angus Auxiliary and cannot be more excited for the year ahead as president. There are so many women within this organization that I admire, and I hope to make you all proud. I look forward to focusing on membership recruitment as we transition to a new format for our annual meeting next year. I also want to have a continued strong presence at the National Junior Angus Show and to target young women to get involved in the auxiliary, because there are some young ones. I am proud to represent the American Angus Auxiliary, and I can't wait to start my year as your president. Thank you. All right, we're going to hand out a few door prizes now, and if our regional directors would help Michelle pass out gifts, I'm going to read out names, and if you will just stand up, and a regional director will come find you with your prize.